Parents of Reddit, what why has your toddler thrown you? Even Google couldn't answer. My 4-year-old asked me, how many arms does an octopus have? 8, I replied. Let's ask Google. My son said, doubting the veracity of my answer. Fine, I say. Okay, Google. How many arms does an octopus have? 6, she replies. Thanks a lot, Google. Meh. My toddlers are easy. They usually just want to know why they have to take naps, or put on clean socks. My 6 and 7-year-olds, however, throw some weird shit at me. I got really excited the other day when my 7-year-old asked me why some trees lose their leaves in the winter, but pine trees and other spiky trees keep theirs. I did a brief explanation about the difference between deciduous and coniferous trees, and how chlorophyll is collected and stored. It went great. He immediately followed it up with, how do we know that some cities and houses actually have real people in them and aren't just really full of plastic cutouts that look like people? She asked me if employees come to their work on their day off. Do they get to use the employee bathroom or the customer bathroom? My niece, 5 at the time, asked me who was the first mother. I was confused and asked, what do you mean? Your mother's mother? And she goes, no, my mother's mother had a mother, and then she had a mother too. But how far does it go? Who was the first mother? Obligatory not a parent, but I was babysitting a 4-year-old, and the child pointed to the cooler out in the backyard and said, do you want to go die in that cooler out there? No, thank you. Why? I would enjoy watching that. Because I like my life the way it is. I'm happy, and there's no need to die yet. Why? Pretty sure I babysat a future serial killer. My daughter regularly makes claims and then asks me why. Like, I want to play outside. Why do I want to play outside? I want noodles for dinner. Why do I want noodles for dinner? Etc. When I tell her I can't know why she decided something, if she doesn't know herself, you could see the gears start turning in her head. Mom, why don't I have a pee hose like the boys? I laughed so hard, I couldn't come up with a legit answer. Wow. Some of these toddlers go deep. I was impressed when my 2-year-old developed from I'm gonna lick it about the dog/cat mark on the kitchen cabinet, dodgy stain on someone's windowsill, etc. to can I lick it? Then finally the proud day of I better not lick that. I was invited to a child's birthday party. The kids around 2 to 3, one of them came up to me at the party, just me, and asked, why are you here? I laughed so hard, I didn't know what to say. She did it again later during the party. I don't know, kid. I'm here for the cake. Why are you here? My cousin, who's like 4, asked me at a family gathering, what's the best paper? Months ago, I'm still wondering what he meant. My son was the wire. 5.5-year-old son in bath. Mommy, come here. I have something to show you. What's up, bud? 4.5-year-old son, pulling his penis to the side and aggressively pulling at his balls. Why does this have wrinkles when my fingers aren't wrinkly yet? And why when I stretch it like this, the wrinkles go away? Me? Well, I don't have one, so I really have no idea. Let me get your dad. He killed me with his whys, especially since most of them were concerning his penis, poop, or throw up. My first grader asked me in front of her entire classroom, why does the tooth fairy want my teeth? 36-year-olds looked at me for answers. My 3-year-old son most mornings, where'd daddy go? He went to work. 'Cause why? So he can make money, so he can have a house, and food, and clothes. 'Cause why? Like, kid, I haven't even had coffee yet. Why spring? Not why is spring after winter, not what happens in spring, or why spring is called spring. Simply, why spring? Why do you have a lot of it? A lot of is a single word for her. Doesn't matter what you have and how much of it. She wants to know why you have it in that quantity. I'm from Chile, South America. I remember one time seeing the typical sketch of the world with many children holding their hands around it. I looked for Chile and I realized that it was on the lower side of the image, and I thought that the child nearer to Chile was me. So I went to the kitchen where my dad was preparing lunch and I asked, Dad, why am I on the TV? And why am I upside down? He ran to my room, and he could not hold in his laughter when he saw it. Then I asked, "Dad, do we all are upside down? Why don't we fall?" We both were almost crying. He was laughing, and I was scared. "I love you." 3-year-old. "Why?" Me. "Because you're my little boy." 3-year-old. "Why?" It's been 2 weeks, and I'm still evaluating why. Set me on an existential journey. True story. Mom, what's the thing you put in your butt? She asked us for years, and I would constantly tell her, "You don't put things in your butt." She would ask this all the time. Initially, I was terrified she may have. Finally, I got the answer. In Walmart, at the checkout, as I'm purchasing tampons, she screams at the top of her lungs, "Those are what you stick up your butt!" I must have had her with me at one time, and it traumatized her, although not more than I was in Walmart that day. My child was 5, pointed at condoms in the grocery store, and asked what they were for. I was exhausted, so I said, "They prevent babies." 2 weeks later, he went to a friend's house who had a sibling. He discovered his friends had to share with his baby brother, and the baby brother was 3 and very annoying. He kept stealing the Legos they were building with, and my son has always been serious about his Legos. He asked why he didn't have a brother. I said, "Because you're an only child. Do you want a brother or sister?" "No." "Well, good, because you aren't going to get one anyway." Back in Kroger, a few days later, and my child shouted at the top of his lungs, "Don't forget the condoms! I like being an only child!" He didn't know why they prevented babies. He just wanted to make sure there wouldn't be any more. He's now age 13, refers to the dog as his brother, because our dog is a thief who steals things and buries them in his toy box. It's not necessarily a why question, it's the fact he continues to ask, "But why?" after I've given him a perfectly good explanation to his original why question. I was a bit of a scientific kid, and I remember doing a bit when I was young. Funny how you learn indirectly from it. I asked an old woman, "Why are you old?" and got a lesson about tact and rudeness I never forgot. So I learned some social manners. I also like to ask, "How do you know?" which annoyed me because I didn't mean it rudely. I meant, "Where did you get this information?" so I might look up similar things. But I didn't have the vocabulary. I got a few smacks for "How do you know?" and could never make Mum understand I wasn't being rude. I remember having infant meltdowns over that one. When I asked about why the sky was blue or the sun was hot, Mum would direct me to a book. This was pre-internet. Or tell me she didn't know, which was good training. Finally, if I continued down the why chain, downwards, it ended after 3 or 4 iterations with, "Because God said so." And that would be the answer to any further questions too. Why can't you stay home with me? Because Daddy has to go to work. Why can't I go with you? Had this conversation with the 3-year-old. Explained that bosses would get mad. He said that he didn't like bosses and that bosses shouldn't exist. I told him that people who don't think there should be bosses are called anarchists. A few months later, he threw a fit wanting to go to a park. I told him that couldn't happen. He was going to anyway, and that I wasn't the boss of him. I told him that actually I was the boss of him. In a shocked voice, he said, "But I don't believe in bosses. I'm an anarchist." My nephew has a couple of pretty good ones, like, "Why is it Thursday?" and "Why are hands attached to arms?" and "Why is that a fox?" But my singular favorite has to be, "What is outside for?" I don't really know, man. I was heading back from a game on a train a few days ago, and there was a boy and his dad. Kid was 5 or 6. For a solid 90 minutes, that kid asked his dad question after question after question. His dad answered every single one patiently, simply, and handed all the follow-ups. He listened to the kid, thought for a moment, and then calmly blew the kid's mind over and over again. "Dad, what's in that field?" "Dad, why are there lights on the ceiling instead of the floor?" "Dad, what are bins made of?" "Dad, who knows where we are now?" And so on. The kid was so wonderfully curious. By an hour in, all the seats were listening in and grinning at each other. I learned all sorts of amazing stuff listening in. It was incredible. I'm a dad now, and I just hope I can be like that dad for my kids. It's amazing. When my daughter was 4 or 5, she'd get on a why roll and would just rapid fire questions without ever waiting for an answer. She'd get that little mouth motor warmed up, and off she'd go. So one day, in a bit of daddy frustration, I asked her, "Why do you ask so many questions?" She looked at me and said, "Why do I?" And that was that. I went to do something else. Not my parents, but my nephew. Uncle Zoberg 88, why are you retarded? I don't have any disabilities at all that I know of. It was out of the blue. My child asked me why the toys Santa brings all say made in China on them. Took me 3 days to come up with the answer that the elves source materials from China. The question just took me by surprise. Figure this was the last year she would believe in Santa. My toddler will bring me an object, tell me its name, and ask why. "Daddy, this is an orange. Why?" The best was before she could form sentences. "Orange, Daddy, why?" Like, why oranges? Like, why do they exist? Why do we have them? Why are they how they are? Why is it called that? Why what? Not a why question. When she was around 3, me and her dad separated. He was an active drug user, and I couldn't afford to support his habit, nor did I want to watch him die, / didn't want my daughter to toddle in and find him dead. Oddly, he was found dead years later, but my grandmother, another story, eventually became homeless. My daughter knew about the homelessness and was very, very concerned about her dad. When we were driving sometimes, she'd look out the window and say, "Maybe Daddy can live in that house. Maybe he can live in that one there." Broke my damn heart. When looking at a cemetery, why do we keep dead people? I used to be a guitar teacher, and a kid who had been coming to lessons for a few years once asked me how a guitar string makes sound. I told him that you pluck the strings and they vibrate, and that makes sound. But he said, "Yeah, but why does a vibrating string make sound?" I had been a musician for 20 years, and I realized I had absolutely no idea. If Daddy is colorblind, why does he always pick the red cars? Actually floored me. Their father is not just colorblind, but extremely colorblind. On the tests, he fails to see any color differences at all. Despite this, every car he buys is red. He cannot even see red. I don't know why he picks them either. I don't know what he sees in his place, but he can't explain it to me. My 4-year-old son asked my wife who takes care of babies, since they can't do anything on their own. She told him that mommies and daddies take care of their babies. He asked a couple more questions, and we ended up on who took care of babies when there were only babies in the world. Basically asked when the first humans were babies, how did they survive? Wasn't ready for such a deep philosophical question, and Google did not have a good answer either. Not why, but as a child, I saw a bald black man at a mall and shouted, "Michael Jordan!" He apparently was very nice when my mom apologized and asked where we were from. No wonder he thinks that. Not many black people from there. Can I speak to him for a second? Said something along the lines of, "I'm not Michael. I just look like him. But there are plenty of people in the world that do, young man. You must like him, huh?" Said a few other things and went on his way. My son once asked at age 3, "What's going to happen at the end of the day?" So I answered, "Darling, we get ready for bed and have a story and go to sleep." And then asked, "But what happens at the end of all days?" So I took a deep breath. Well, he is a deep thinker. Plaque on a bridge over a river was in remembrance of a 14-year-old girl who jumped off the bridge to commit suicide. After my daughter asked why the sign was there, every time we walk over the bridge, my 5-year-old daughter would ask why a girl would kill herself. Not a why question, but thought I'd share either way. Not a why question, but thought I'd share either way. We were driving around and my 8-year-old asked me if trees were just big broccoli. I told him, yes, they are, and they're good for your soul. He told me to stop and to look at him. I looked at him from the mirror and told me, "Mama, I have no soul." Did not know how to answer that, LeMayo. I have one dark kid, laughing my ass off. When I was 5 or 6, I asked my father how he knew that when we moved in the car, that it was the car moving and not the ground moving beneath the tires. I guess I was really asking how we test it, but ultimately, he got very frustrated with me and told me to stop asking questions. Decades later, he would describe this as the point where he knew I was smarter than him. This isn't really a parent story, but my baby cousin a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago at the time, called me by my brother's name. I told her, "I'm Jamie, not Josh," and she replied with, "Why?" I had no idea what I should answer with. "Why can't I play with your vibrator at 5 a.m.? And why is it under the covers with you?" I learned real quick not to fall asleep with my vibrator, or my toddler would find it. The little shit also learned real fast that mommy likes hiding it, and so he would go through my drawers, boxes, and stuff looking for it, whilst my back was turned. I gave up when my sister came over for dinner one night and was cooking. He had somehow found it again and came up behind her and was giving her a massage, which she enjoyed, until I freaked her out and just threw it out. One day I'll share this funny story with him while giving a speech at his wedding. LeMayo. I don't remember doing this, but my parents love telling me this story. When I was a kid, I asked my dad, "Why do ants have such short legs?" And he said, "I don't know, ask God or something." I went to the window and yelled my question as loud as I could. Then I waited for a few seconds before turning to my dad and going, "I don't think God has ears." When I was a kid, it became a running joke that if you asked why enough times, eventually you'd get to the Big Bang. I have super early memories of my dad explaining the universe as best as he could. Did I understand any of it at 5? No, I barely understand now. That wasn't the point. I just wanted to have a conversation / his attention. My father, who tried to explain there was nothing before the Big Bang, there wasn't even before, to his toddler, has since become a middle school science teacher, to the surprise of nobody. There's no why that can't be hit with the parent responding, "Why do you think?" Then you just pretend to pay attention while your mind drifts to better uses, like that classic conundrum. If I got a wish for superpowers of one character, which one do I choose? Goku? Harry Potter? Corvo Attano? One time, just after my mom passed away, my daughter said, after confirming with me she was now in heaven, where she couldn't be sick or hurt anymore. Well, I think we should all die and go to heaven. It honestly caught me completely off guard, and took a brief pause to consider a semi-appropriate response. My daughter wasn't a whyer, she was a whoer. She demanded accountability for everything. Who made birds have feather? Who makes lightning? Who ate that donut? Who moved my sheepy? Who made cereal? Who put that there? A manhole. City workers did. Why? So they can get to the sewer that's under there. Who put the sewer under there? I don't know. City engineers, I guess? Well, whose idea was it? Who? Who did it? I don't know, was the instant tantrum answer. Lost my dog a year and a half ago. My 3-year-old was present for it. It was cancer, so it was a slow, heartbreaking process. We buried him in the backyard. Why did he have to die? Why did he get sick? What's cancer? Why did he get cancer? Why can't they fix him? Why is he going to doggy heaven? Is he going to come back? Can we go visit him? Why can't we go visit him? Can he visit us? But months after, our new puppy was burying a bone in the yard, and he asks, "Why is he burying his bone? Is he sending it up to dog heaven for Fitzy?" Yup, he sure is, buddy.